This is everything required to put a hitch on the Platinum trim of the Cadillac XT5. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're back here with this 2017 Cadillac XT5, and today we are going to be talking about how to install a hitch on this vehicle. Now, there are a bunch of videos already on YouTube about putting hitches on the Cadillac XT5. However, none of these videos cover the Platinum trim of the XT5. In fact, you may have noticed if you go to look for a hitch that every single listing for the hitch mentions that it will not work on the XT5 Platinum. It'll say except Platinum or not compatible with Platinum. There's a reason for this, but actually all of those hitches will work on the Platinum trim. It just takes a little bit of extra work, and that's what we're going to cover here today. So the reason that they don't want to sell you a hitch for the Platinum is because the Platinum level trim has something different than the other three trim levels. The Platinum trim has a stainless steel skid plate, as they call it, on the back bumper. Actually, they have one on the front bumper too. So this piece of metal here is different from all of the other trim levels. On the other three trim levels, it's plastic back there, and there's actually already a cutout in the middle that allows for the hitch. The XT5 Platinum was available with a hitch, but it's typically either already on there from the factory or a dealer item. So the most obvious component you're going to need for this is the hitch itself. There are a bunch of different manufacturers making hitches for this vehicle. I just picked the cheapest one, and the reason for that is all I'm going to be using this for is a bike rack. So at the time of filming, the cheapest hitch was the Draw-Tite hitch, and I'll have a link to that in the video description. So that's what I'm going to use. I definitely wouldn't pay the crazy prices that Cadillac wants for their own hitch, but for my purposes, it really all it has to hold is a bike rack, and these all have similar ratings anyway, so I went with that, but any of the major brand hitches should work. So the real trick to getting this project to work is a part that's a little bit hard to find unless you know the part number, and I'll have the part number in the description. This is the official skid plate from GM that has the cutout for the hitch. So this is going to replace the skid plate that's already on the vehicle, and we'll cover that more here in just a moment. And one more specialty item here that you will need is the cover. And again, part number, having the part number is the key here, and I'll have that in the video description. Most of the covers, if you just do Google searches for them, are the plastic covers for the other three trims. So you got to get the metal cover. A little bit hard to find, a little bit pricey for what it is, but I'll have a link in the description below. And finally, possibly the most outrageous component you're going to need is this little guy here, and I'll have a link in the description. This is a little bracket that's going to go on the bottom of the new skid plate, and this is going to be for the new cover. Has little twist knobs, and this is what those twist knobs go into. Those do not come with either piece. These are sold separately, and we'll talk more about how they work later in the video when we get to that part. I will say this is the most outrageously priced component of everything. At the time of filming, the cheapest I could find was about $13 shipped, and it got here, and there was only one of them in the package, and you actually need two. I had read somewhere the package came with two, but obviously that wasn't right. So yeah, so I only have one right now, but I'm going to get by without the other until it arrives. But you do need two of these, and again, I'll have the part number in the description. I am sure with some research that you could find something not from GM that's about the same for much cheaper, but most of the ones I checked at AutoZone when I got this one in, most of the ones they have are designed for a regular screw to go through, like in a body panel, and they don't have these little, this one I'm not sure if you can tell, but it has two little nubs. It's not a complete circle here that the twist screw grabs onto. So the first thing we're going to get started with is taking off the old skid plate. And something I'll point out before we get under there so you can see this a little bit better is here's the new skid plate, and you can see around all the edges there are these little metal tabs, and currently on the original skid plate these are twisted, so they slide through a slot and each one is twisted, so we'll have to twist those straight to pull it off, and I believe there's some other nuts and bolts that have to come off, but I just wanted you to see exactly what those look like, so you can kind of get an idea of what it is that's mostly holding this skid plate in place. So let's get up under the vehicle and start pulling off the existing skid plate. All right, so there are 4 screws at the bottom edge of the skid plate. 1, 2, 3, and 4. These are T10 Torx. And we will be reusing these, so don't lose track of them. So at this point it's loosened up a little bit, but we still need to get all those metal pieces twisted to remove this. So hopefully you can kind of see, here's one of these clips, and they're not really twisted much, but apparently enough to keep this plate from pulling out. And some of these, there's another one up there, and some of these you can just barely make out where they poke through. Right there. So this is going to be probably all kinds of fun. There's another one right there. So it's kind of crazy that they're just barely holding that on, but they're doing a pretty good job. And I've been able to, the ones I can reach with my fingers, I can actually twist with my fingers. But these ones up here, not so much. All right, I've got most of the clips, or I think all of the clips, straightened to where I think they need to be. And of course what we really want to do is avoid the temptation to pry, put a screwdriver. I mean, it'd be so easy just to stick a screwdriver in here and pop this off, but we don't want to mar up this plastic. And I think this is one of those things that would have been 10 times easier if you pull the whole bumper off. And that's probably what they intend for you to do, if they intend for you to do this at all. But I really don't want to pull the whole bumper off. And we're really trying not to bend this piece of metal up because I'd like to resell it too. I'm just pushing on that clip. Aha. Sounded good. Oh, there's one in the middle. Did not realize that. It's kind of off center. It's right here. And it's really hard to see it or get to it. Wow. Glad I didn't miss that. Oh, it looks like there's 2 in the middle. Yeah, should have really looked that over more. So there are actually 2 in the middle. You got 1, 2 sets and then 3 sets across this top edge, and I just didn't see these ones from underneath there. Should have paid better attention. That's it. And now it's finally off. Well, that's probably, well, that's hopefully the most difficult part. And so here is what the bumper looks like without the skid plate. And I suppose if you wanted to go with a really ugly method and cheap method, you could just pull this off and not do anything else, but yeah, I don't think so. So you can see these right here also hold it in. So we'll want to be aware of that when you're pulling it off. So there's already a cutout in the bumper, just like the lower trims have. It's just covered up by that skid plate. So hopefully putting this one on won't be nearly as difficult as taking the other one off was. Can't imagine that it would be. And we're going to be careful as we're lining this up not to scrape up the bumper with the tabs. We kind of want to get them all started, I think. So it doesn't get in a bind. I mean, not done this before, but I'm just guessing. And we've got some additional clips around the opening. Okay, so yeah, you definitely want to line up all of the tabs and then work your way from the middle outward. This right here is the hardest part to get all the way in. It's in now, but before I could kind of see the top edge of it. I actually ended up just pulling it back off and looking, and this lip right here was, on the original one, it was kind of bent in just a little bit. So I very carefully took some pliers and bent that in just a little bit, and this time it popped all the way in, and I'm a lot happier with that. So I think the other thing we're gonna have to make sure that we do here is, as we're twisting all these metal tabs, make sure we've got this pushed in all the way so that it's got a nice, good, tight seam all the way around. And looks like it was on there from the factory. All right, so now we just need to put those 4 T10 Torx bolts back in. All right, so new skid plate is installed. The only thing I might have done differently is wear some work gloves, because that metal is sharp and did manage to cut a finger on it. And so now we're ready to hang the hitch, and I would say it's very important to have this snapped in exactly how you want it, because there's not much room to work back there, and once the hitch goes in, we're gonna have even less room to work. So there are a bunch of fairly good videos, like I mentioned, on how to install the hitch, so I'm not gonna spend a whole lot of time on this, but give you some brief instructions. Basically, there's already holes, as you can see, that we're going to use, these 3 smaller ones, I believe, with the included hardware. The only problem is that you do have to pass these guys up into the frame here, and you know, for whatever reason, all the kits talk about having to enlarge this hole because this won't pass through it. I'm not sure why they couldn't just make this fit in the hole or whatever, but it is what it is. Several different methods I've seen are just widening the hole with one of those special drill bits, or using, I saw somebody use a file. I'm gonna try that first and see what happens. It doesn't look like it's gonna take a whole lot. It almost fits in there. Yeah, ain't nobody got time for doing this with a file, so I think my drum will work. Let's test that. Okay, so yeah, it looks like it's gonna fit now. That's all it takes. And so basically we're going to fish a wire that's included from that hole first, then this one and this one, to fish the bolts and these things through. Like I said, there's some good videos on this already. I'm not going to cover it in depth. All right, that's kind of a pain, but not too bad, I guess. So I'm just gonna go repeat this same thing on the other side, and then hopefully it won't be too bad to lift this hitch up in here myself. All right, got the hitch up in there. I did have to end up phoning a friend on that. That is definitely a two-person job. The hitch kind of has to go in at an angle to clear the inside of the bumper cover. So yeah, I tried it myself. No way to do that for sure. And this is what it looks like with it bolted up in there. The bottom of the bumper on the Platinum is a little bit different than the other trims. The bumper actually comes down around the exhaust, where on the other trims there's nothing down here below the exhaust. So there's an extra little support over here, which made it a little bit difficult to get to this bolt on each side, but it was manageable. So that's all in there. It's a nice installation, nice hidden product there. So now all we have left to do is install the cover. All right, like I mentioned earlier, there are these little twist bolts, or whatever you want to call them, already on this panel, but they need something to twist into, and so that's where these little clips that I'm missing one come into play. So they literally go in like that, and actually I think it's going to go this direction, and then they twist in place, yeah, and then that holds it in. So I'll go ahead and show you what that's like. So the bigger hole is what we're going to want to line up with, and it's going to go this direction on this piece of plastic here. So now it has somewhere for the cover to twist into. All right, so you can see the orientation of that clip a little bit better from up here. And so next we just need to install the cover. So these little metal tabs just go up into the bumper. And I find that you do have to pinch this together a little bit to get this to reach. And it should make a nice tight connection, just like that. And for now, I'm gonna put something over here to keep this in place. And that'll keep that in place until the other piece arrives. All right, and here's the finished product. I think it turned out pretty good. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel. I'm sure we'll have a lot more projects going on this XT5 down the road. And don't forget, we've also got videos on our Cadillac CTS and a bunch of videos on the Cadillac SRX as well.